Welcome to this edition of the 3 and 2 What's He Gonna Do podcast. I'm Dan Zielinski of the Baseball Prospect Journal, thirdmanin.com. Joined as always with Colin Cannonberg of statswipe.com. And baseball season's almost here. We got a busy podcast with baseball, college basketball.
Let's not beat around the bush. This is like the best time in sports. We have the Masters coming up next 2 weeks. We have March Madness in full swing right now, and opening day on Thursday.
We're missing the NASCAR race right now in Bristol on the dirt track.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Another high-profile event.
We got NASCAR going on. Yep.
I would have watched it.
Just a lot going on. And this basketball tournament has been crazy. And I mean, we could do how much talk on March Madness alone, but I think, we're pretty focused on baseball and reviewing baseball. But one piece of local news that we want to touch on is Shaka Smart leading the 3 seed Texas to a loss against Texas Abilene Christian. So he is now Marquette's new coach, and you are against that hire. Why?
Yeah, he's bad. It's a good hire if you want another Wojo, because he's a guy who recruits well, doesn't win big games, but that's all right. Being a UWM fan, I'm not going to fault Marquette for hiring a mediocre coach to let Milwaukee hopefully get the spotlight next year in the 2021-22 season.
The difference is Smart actually does lead teams to the NCAA tournament and is a winner. Whereas Woj wasn't. And I think players like Shaka Smart, whereas players didn't like Woj.
Winner is questionable. What do you want to win? A regular season game against TCU in December, or do you want to win a Final Four game? Neither are going to get the job done. I mean, if we look at Shaka Smart, was that one of the best college basketball destinations in Texas? They throw more money behind their program than almost anyone, even more than Marquette. 109 and 86 in his 6 years there. Never got out of the round of 64. Winless in the NCAA tournament, obviously. And they were always like the higher seed, too. He always got upset. And whether you want to say, it was unlucky because someone made a half-court shot or this, that, or the other, they were still the higher seed, the favorite, and they still got beat, regardless of how the ending occurred. So, I mean, and if you take away his Final Four appearance with VCU in only his second year, it's not like he built that entire team. He was inheriting a quality team. He hasn't really done much. He's only won a few tournament games in his career.
He built that VCU.
No, they were good before he got there. They were 27-9 when he got there.
They only made the NCAA tournament twice since '95 before he got there. So from '95 to 2009, only twice. Whereas Smart led them to 5 NCAA tournaments.
Yeah,
which shows
they also won
wasn't
only
just
a few games. They got to the Final Four, the round of 32 twice, and then they got bounced in the first round twice.
Yeah, for a team that had just switched conferences, that was in the midst of a conference switching, and for a mid-major, that's pretty good.
Okay. Yes, he got there with VCU.
Yeah.
But there's no argument to be made. He's taken a step backwards because Texas was ready to fire him.
I mean, yeah, you probably did see writing on the wall that one more bad season, he would have been out. Kind of how, Tom Crane in Indiana.
Yeah, for sure.
Won the Big Ten outright. Next year, had a bad year, got canned. He kind of saw that, and that's just a big program move, one bad season. But the thing is, I like the competitive atmosphere that he has. Even when he's missed the NCAA tournament, he did win the 2018-2019 NIT tournament.
But at Texas, if he's at UWM, that's an accomplishment. At Texas, that's an embarrassment that they're even in the NIT.
I think it just keeps kids competitive, and he keeps showing.
He's had so many talented recruiting classes. I'll give him that. He's a good recruiter.
Yeah.
He drafted some high-profile NBA picks. But I don't know. The record, his postseason success are less than desirable. I still think if he wasn't a Wisconsin native, Marquette doesn't make this hire. I think I'd rather have had Porter Moser from Loyola because he's at least shown an ability to build a program up. And Loyola, does have some quality resources.
Mhm.
I don't know if he would have necessarily left Loyola because he's pretty much set up to win there, and I think they would have been able to match his salary at least up to a couple million or close to that.
Right.
But regardless, I don't know. I think I would have rather taken a chance on a Porter Moser, if that's a chance, or even like a mid-major coach who's had some success and hope to.
That sounds like Shaka Smart. He was a mid-major coach who had success.
6 years ago. To me, this is high ceiling, low potential.
And you know what? I don't
payoff.
think maybe
You're not going to win
Shaka-
a national title with Shaka Smart as your coach, but you're going to get potentially to the Sweet 16 where Buzz Williams was getting them every year.
Mm-hmm. And maybe Shaka isn't much of a big school coach. Texas is a pretty premier job. Maybe it got to him. I think maybe taking a step down to Marquette. It's a slight step down. Not to say Marquette's a small basketball school. They're
play in a high mid-major.
Yeah. I don't even consider the Big East. No, they're Big East
high
isn't a
mid-major.
But I think it's a great hire. Just what if he would shave his head? Does that make a difference?
Well, if you're going to shave his head, you should have just hired John Beeline.
I think shaved head Shaka is going to be great. If I'm Marquette, I say shave his head.
His head wasn't shaved today for the press conference.
I know.
He should have shaved it as a clean start.
Exactly. He should have.
So it's not getting off to a good start for Marquette.
So do you think he leads them to, how many tournaments in the next 5 years?
3.
And then how far do you think he'll get? The furthest he gets in 5 years?
I think he might get to the Sweet 16 one time.
I would consider a Sweet 16 once in 5 pretty.
No, not for as much money as they could.
Coming off of this year, I think next year, I don't know how the recruiting class is coming next year.
They had talent on this year's team. Rojo couldn't coach.
Yeah, no, I agree. He wasn't good, but
it'll be interesting. Shaka recruited a guy from Brookfield Central that is a really good recruit to Texas, and he's committed there. So we'll see if he flips that commitment to Marquette. So
right,
it'll be it'll be an interesting time in Milwaukee for college basketball next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Baldwin Jr.'s got to commit to UWM to make that.
Okay, should he be committed? We've been talking about him committing for the last year. Isn't it too late at this point?
No, I mean,
what is he?
The only thing I'll say is the top player in the class hasn't committed yet, and some other top 100 commits. There's still plenty of guys who haven't committed. The signing period opens April 14th again and runs through August. If he doesn't commit by the end of May, I already think it's weird that he hasn't committed.
Yeah, it is weird.
But if he doesn't commit early on in the signing process,
yeah,
I don't know if he's wanting to take visits to places and hasn't been able to or what. But I think it's a little weird. But I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see along with everyone else. I mean, it'd be great if Milwaukee could be the central program. In Wisconsin, but
should be interesting.
Yeah, so that's kind of the college basketball news. I'm cheering for Oregon State at this point to just go to the championship and win it. I don't know.
You watched the UCLA-Alabama game? I could have shot free throws better than Alabama.
Yeah.
They missed 14 free throws. They should have easily won that game.
They should have, yeah, and it's disappointing. I was cheering for Nate Oates, Wisconsin native, to go all the way.
Yeah.
And they were a good man. They're a good team. They couldn't finish it out yesterday, and
it's crazy. So now left in the Elite Eight is UCLA, USC, and Oregon State. 3 Pac-12 teams, and you got Michigan, Houston, Arkansas,
and Baylor
and Gonzaga.
Yeah.
So
it's a
tons
weird
of teams out on the West Coast and
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a weird group of teams, just random teams. I mean, Oregon State, USC. I mean, people knew kind of USC had
Is
talent.
You think it's set up for Gonzaga to win it all over Baylor, or do you think there's going to be another upset somewhere?
Yeah, honestly, I see it being that way. And First of all, I'm sick of Gonzaga. I feel like they're the most annoying team at this. Any broadcast, and I keep hearing Timmy with the rebound, Timmy with the shot, Timmy. I just keep hearing that. I'm like, oh, please get eliminated. But then they run in. They run into. I agree, they are good, but I feel a little bit as if they've had an easy path too. I mean, I don't think Oklahoma was good at all. They barely squeaked by Mizzou, and I don't.
Oklahoma played Gonzaga tough though. They only lost by like what, 12 or something.
Yeah.
But like if you look at Gonzaga's schedule, Gonzaga's blowing.
And Creighton, I knew was just going to get shredded, considering they limped into the tournament and just barely squeaked by whatever team that
I will say it's been a crazy year, unpredictable year.
Yeah.
I mean, more than I think last few years. I mean, when you get, I think this is the first time ever there's 11 or worse seeds, 2 of them in the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
So I mean,
yeah, it's fun. I love it. And it just shows how hard it is to actually win an NCAA tournament. Is because anything happens in one games like this, especially being March Madness.
Exactly. So we'll see. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
But before we get to the national title game, Brewers open the season on Thursday.
Yes.
Opening day. Should be fun.
Yep. And it just got announced. Lure got option to AAA.
He's had the shoulder or arm injury, and he just hasn't produced with the Brewers so far. I still think there's some back end rotation type potential in him, but he's gonna have to figure it out.
I mean, his spring line, he pitched 5 innings, gave up 8 earned runs, 7 walks in that. Yeah, he just couldn't. When he wasn't walking people, he was just throwing meatballs to people.
Who do you think they start in center field? Who do you think they should start in center field?
I think they have to start JBJ.
I think they're over Lorenzo Cain. I think the only reason he's on the team is because he's the highest paid player on the team.
Right.
But I think the way things went down last year, I think his age, the last couple of years, whether it's opting out or inability to produce, inability to stay healthy at times, I think they're kind of over him.
And he's been getting injured in spring training, and nor has he hit in spring training. Which not to say spring training stats mean anything, but when you've taken a year off, I want to see at least put some good at bats together in spring training, and he just hasn't. I don't see him being effective at all. Whereas on the other side, you have JBJ, who's coming off, arguably his best offensive season. He's pretty much had 2 offensive seasons, one of which being last year. So I think being the hot hand that he is there and fairly comparable defensively, both very good defensively. Again, he played last year, so I have more trust in the guy who's played and is in condition.
I think if Cain would be slotted in the lineup, I think the lineup is more predictable and how you can see the Brewers filling it out. But with Jackie Bradley Jr. in it, how would you fill out the lineup card?
Because the rest of the lineup
card? In terms of batting lineup, because with Cain, I could see you making the case of putting Colton Wong lead off, Lorenzo Cain 2, Yelich 3, Keston 4, Avisail Garcia 5, Travis Shaw probably 5, Garcia 6, Navarez 7th, the shortstop 8th.
Yeah.
Because then it's left, right. But now, if you put Bradley, Colton Wong, and then Yelich 1, 2, 3, that's 3 straight lefties. Does that matter though?
I don't see it mattering. I mean, I don't think it matters, especially with the pitching rule having that you have to stay in for, if you think later in a game, pitchers have to stay in for how long now.
You don't think it's that big of a deal?
No.
Would you bet Keston 4th regardless of who's in center field?
I don't even know if I bet Keston 4th. I probably
farther down.
Yeah, I'm not high on Keston.
I don't want to say it's a make or break year for him, but because it's only going to be his 3rd year. But he looked kind of lost at the plate last year. I mean, strikeout numbers are up. He still had the power, but he struggles to get on base. Defensively, he's a non-factor. And if you're not going to produce offensively at first base, they'll bring back Ryan Braun or
Right.
someone to play first base. Dan Vogelbach
Yeah.
off the bench.
Yep. So do you think this year he can dip his strikeout rate below 30%? I mean, that's not saying much, 30%.
What was he last year, you know?
At 30. He's never been below 30 in his 2 years.
No. I think he's the Corey. He's like Corey Ray. Both him and Keston, when they're drafted, were considered just kind of pure hitters, get hit for average, get on base, also hit for some power. Both those guys have lost it. Now Keston's obviously gotten to the major leagues. But the guy has gone from, which I thought he might, more power over average. But when I thought he'd be hitting 280, 275.
Yeah.
Now he's hitting 225.
Right.
And I don't see that improving at all.
Do you think he could lead the team in home runs?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But I don't know how valuable a 200 hitter that strikes out 150 times with 35 home runs is.
Right. I mean, how I see his game log going is, 2 for 5 with 2 dingers, and then the next 2 games, and then next 2 games he'll go like 0 for 8 with a combined 6 strikeouts, and then he'll hit a home run, and then 0 for. It's a frustrating line that I don't see really being that valuable.
See, and that's why I think the biggest question mark going into the year is the offense, because even though Yelich, I think, is a top 3 player in the game, he's still coming off a down year. Colton Wong was a huge addition. I think that's going to help, but what do you get from him? Are you getting a 245 hitter or a 280 hitter?
Yeah.
Jackie Bradley's kind of the same way. That's why I just think their offense is so many question marks, and really it's going to dictate their success, because I think pitching-wise, they got the best pitching staff in the division.
Right. So I just want to talk with Yelich. I think the team will live and die by Yelich this year pretty much. And I was looking up earlier today, again, not saying spring numbers are set in stone, but there was a clear deviation from his, so just taking batting average. In 2017, he hit 345 in spring training, 2018, 300, 2019, 442. Last year, 2020, he hit 182, and now this year it's back up to 400. So I think the fact that he does tend to get going during spring is important. And this year he's back up to where he was during his MVP seasons. And last year was a clear deviation from that.
Well, I want to say too, if I remember correctly, Craig Counsell put Yelich in games earlier than like last year, the previous year, because he wanted to hopefully get him going and then rest him a little bit in the middle and then put him back in later in spring
Which
training.
Is great. I like that move. And I think Yelich will be back. I mean, we've been talking over the weeks with our fantasy baseball draft coming up about Yelich, and I've been, kind of thinking, well, do I keep Yelich over Corey Seager? And I've been kind of going back and forth on that. I have to stick with Yelich. I think the guy has shown enough, especially in spring, to give me more confidence. And baseball being such a mental game, I don't think Yelich was mentally in it last year with COVID.
Maybe healthy even.
Or healthy, yeah, at that point too. I really like where he's at right now. But so Zips projects him at a 3.9 WAR. Now Zips is always very conservative for the most part, just in terms of projections. Hitting 273 average. Do you think that he'll exceed either of those numbers? Well, if you
What's kind of the average WAR for that Zip? Where's Mike Trout?
I think probably Trout's maybe at like 4 or 5.
So he's not. He's probably a point or two lower than Trout.
Yeah.
I think I can see Yelich hitting high 2s, around 30 home runs, 95 RBIs, hopefully steals maybe 10 bases or something like that.
Do you think enough to get him in like a top 3 finish?
That's tough because, there's so many variables with that. It wouldn't shock me if he's in the top 3. It wouldn't shock me, though, if he does those similar kind of numbers that I said in these top 6, because, you're going to have 1 or 2 guys go off this year that are unpredictable, or maybe finally have a breakout year like an Acuna gets up there, or Soto. But yeah, I think if you can hit high twos, around 30 home runs, driving about 100 RBIs, I think that's a quality year.
Yeah,
I think
the
for what
Brewers
the
are
Brewers
happy
are
with
paying
that.
paying them, I think that's more than enough.
Another guy is Colton Wong. He'll likely be hitting leadoff for the Brewers,
Yeah.
and I think
Top
that's
2, you'd think.
Yep, yeah, and I like that. And both Zips and Steamer, the two projection systems on Fangraphs, have him as the second highest WAR on the Brewers behind Yelich.
Position player wise,
yeah, yep. So I think a lot that people are saying being in Miller Park where it favors left-handed hitters quite well. He could have plenty of balls that wouldn't go out at Busch Stadium that will go out at Miller Park. And I guess, do you think that he's projected at 10 home runs? Do you think he could pass? His career high is 12. Do you think he could surpass 12 home runs this year?
Yeah, before you even said 10, I was going to say I could see him easily at 15, 18 home runs. Maybe not easily, but I think he could be around 15 to 18 because, like you said, Miller Park favors left-handed hitters. And I think he's also going to have some protection in that lineup because if he's hitting at the top of the lineup, guys are going to throw him strikes because they want to try to get him out before Yelich, and depending on Hiura, how he does, they're going to want to get those guys out in front of him instead of risk walking them or something like that. So I could see him having a really good year. I mean, when they made that signing, at first I looked at his offensive numbers and was kind of unsure, but I think Miller Park, maybe even a new situation just in general, where he's kind of expected to produce more, whereas I feel like with the Cardinals, he was just another guy.
Yeah.
So maybe he kind of steps up to the plate there as well. But, yeah, I could see him easily surpassing that.
Yeah, I think he's kind of a big piece to this team. Excited to see how he does. I think for sure defensively, he's going to be a big – I mean, going from Keston to him adds so much. And also, I looked up, he does, in terms of NL Central ballparks, he's had the highest OPS at Miller Park compared to other parks. Did you have any other players? Do we want to talk some pitching? I mean,
how do you think Travis Shaw does this year?
I think he'll bounce back. I think he might surprise some people this year.
With what they're paying him, if he can even just hit like 250 with 20 home runs, 60, 70 RBIs, I think that's more than enough for what you're paying him. The shortstop situation is going to be interesting to see. It sounds like Luis Urias is the guy going in, and Arcia is going to bounce between shortstop and third base. So you think that's a smart move?
I do. I think you bring Urias in. I don't think he's been given really a great shot at it yet.
No.
He got injured early on last year, and I think you give him his pedigree in the minors is so good. He's been a hitter and flashes of defense too. And I think overall he's a ball player who, with the high ceiling that he has, you have to give him a try.
Yeah, I mean, because like Arcia last year, maybe at his best, one of his best offensive seasons in the major leagues, he had 260. Obviously shortened year, only 5 home runs and just under 200 plate appearances, so over 600 at bats. It's only 15 home runs. I think Urias could surpass that, but there's still a lot of question marks with him just because he hasn't shown it at all in the major leagues.
Yeah.
But he's, what you have in Arcia. So if you're hoping to find another contributor to go with Colton Wong, Jackie Bradley, Yelich, maybe Hiura, and who knows what you get out of Garcia, then I think it's worth taking that risk and hopefully getting more of a reward.
Yeah. So I have here my 5 Brewers predictions, and we'll see what the people think. They're not exactly bold predictions, but they're predictions. So one of them I have is the Brewers will lead all of baseball in the defense based on Fangraphs defensive rankings. They'll be number 1. And last year they placed 8th, so they were a good defensive team.
Yeah.
But I think given the upgrades of Jackie Bradley Jr. on the team and Colton Wong at second, I think they're going to be the best defensive team in baseball.
Definitely going to be better with Keston not at second base. Now how he does at first base, time will tell, but definitely going to be better up the middle.
Mm-hmm. Second one I have is that Woodruff and Burns will be a top 5 duo in strikeouts and ERA in all of baseball.
That's interesting. I could easily see Corbin Burns duplicating last year's success. It's another big year for him because he came up a couple years ago, was really good. 2 years ago, struggled, only had the 2 pitches, and then this past year was really good. I can see that definitely, but it's still not. I don't want to say it because nothing's a guarantee, but you still, Corbin Burns still has to go out there and prove it because he hasn't put 2 years back to back that have been quality. So I think Woodruff, though, is an underrated guy and could easily be in the Cy Young race.
Yeah, for sure. I also have that we will see Ethan Small in a postseason push. I think they bring him up.
Ethan Small. When we look at it, I feel like
he hasn't done much. He hasn't proven so much as of yet.
You're not worried though he hasn't made it above single A?
No, I think if he comes out strong in the minors this year and coming down the stretch, if the Brewers are in a push, I think they give him a shot.
I hate guys who don't throw like above 90.
But he developed through college.
He's a crafty lefty.
Yeah, I don't feel like you need to. I think he's kind of like a Brandon Finnegan guy.
Who sees more innings in the major leagues, Lauer or Small? Ethan Small.
Yeah. Maybe I think Lauer, but barely. I don't know. I think it's more. The odds are he'd be up before Ethan Small again. I don't know. Lauer needs to make a lot of adjustments.
That's your boldest prediction so far.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Until maybe this one. I am saying Omar Narvaez bounces back, hits 250 and 17 home runs this year.
But is that good? I expect that.
Well, after last year.
I mean, yeah, he was terrible.
Yeah.
But when they acquired him, that was easily what I would have expected. So I don't know if would necessarily be surprised because that's why they traded for him, was to have at least those kind of numbers.
Right.
Now, because he had such a bad year last year, maybe. But they also need him to produce at least that for this offense to be any good.
Right. And I don't know how they plan to split with him and
I'd rather put him out there than Pena because you know what you got in Pena offensively, and it's not much.
Throw Pena in an extra innings Mother's Day game, and that'll be it. And finally, so just a record prediction. So Pecota projects him at an 84-73 record. I agree. I think the Brewers will end up winning the division this year. Maybe get 90 wins, but I think it's a stretch to say they'll win 92. But I think they do win the division just because of how weak it is. And I think they have the pitching to give them a chance. But more so, just the number of players that were down last year and the Brewers still were good. Put Yelich back up to, not even an MVP, but just slightly below MVP caliber. Have Narvaez bounce back. Have a solid year out of JBJ in center field. I think there's a lot of more bounce backs than there would be drop backs.
How would you rank the division from top to bottom?
I would say Brewers 1, Cubs 2, Cardinals 3, Reds 4.
Cardinals starting rotation is not very good.
Yeah.
I mean, no one really has a starting. The Reds might have Reds with Sonny Gray and Luis Castillo rivals the Brewers. It's right there with the Brewers.
I was so high on the Reds last year. I think I've lost them now.
I know.
They lost my trust. I expected better of them.
I did.
And the Pirates are going to be lucky to win like half their games. I mean, it's just good. They're
going to have 100 losses. The only reason they might not is because the division, besides the Pirates, isn't like they don't have a Dodgers, they don't have a Padres,
they could squeak out, and they're gonna pull off a fluky 4-game sweep of the Brewers at some point. But yeah, I think that's how it will go. What do you think the rankings are?
I would probably put Cardinals 2, Cubs 3. I think the Cubs need to just blow it up.
Yeah.
Their minor league system's not very good. They underachieved after winning the World Series for whatever reason.
Yeah, they weren't that dynasty people thought was going to
No.
happen.
And I mean, Chris Bryant could be gone after this year. I want to say Rizzo's contract's getting close to being
Yeah,
up, but he's getting older too.
Right.
Their outfield, who knows what you got with those guys. And they still have never been able to develop pitching, and Craig Kimbrell's still a nightmare at the back end of the bullpen. So.
Yeah. But otherwise, we have fans. AmFam Field, still Miller Park to me is going to still going to be having fans. I checked out prices that opening day. Tickets are expensive for terrace seats.
Someone told me you could get Cubs seat tickets against the Cubs for $25. I don't know how many days old.
$24, but then they'll tack on the $20 preferred parking that you have
and that's
no
the
choice.
Only option.
Yeah,
for parking is the $20.
I'm sure they're upping it. It's $17 for the preferred parking.
But you can't select the just normal parking where it's 12 or whatever.
Nope. And they upped that to 14 now. And when you do,
I wonder if you call and order tickets that way.
Yeah, instead of
online.
Yeah.
Criminal. Trying to recoup their losses.
I know. And then here's the thing. I'd be fine paying for parking, but when we're not allowed to tailgate either, it's like, well, then why am I here?
15 minutes before the game starts.
Yeah.
Pay $20 to park at the back of the lot because you're probably socially distancing the cars.
Yeah. No, it's at this point in the season, it's not worth me paying to go.
I'll use that money to go golfing instead.
Right. I guess if you think about it too, we saved so much money not going to sporting events last year or doing anything. That's like, well, I guess we could throw some at a game, but boy, I just think the fact that they have you do, force you for parking, it really that ticks me off. And I can only imagine they probably upped the price of a Miller Lite to like $15. Yeah.
It's not Buffalo Wild Wings beer either.
Oh, Buffalo Wild Wings has the best beer.
The temperature, just the flavor.
And no one goes there. I've never heard anyone be like, "Yeah, are we gonna go to the bar? Yeah, let's go to B-Dub." Usually people do actually want their wings and to watch sports, but to go there for a beer, they have like 30 choices on draft of local breweries, and they just have it at the best temperature, aerated perfectly. Nothing is better than a B-Dub's beer.
Maybe we'll just have to go there on Tuesdays or Thursdays.
Yeah.
For a Brewers game.
We almost should. Just
the Tuesday, Thursday wing deal.
Yeah.
With the nice Miller Lite.
Right. Yeah. So,
quickly, before we wrap this up, World Series prediction, because I don't know if we've done that in a previous episode. So just get it on record. Who do you got?
Okay, this might be an embarrassing on record. So, AL, I have the Yankees. That's a normal pick.
Yeah.
NL, don't laugh. I have ragged on this team for years. The Mets. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a New York World Series with the Yanks winning.
Who wins?
Yankees in 6.
I can get on board with the Yankees being in the World Series. I think them and the Rays are clearly the best teams in the AL. There's no super team or power team in the AL. There's a lot of just really good teams, but the Yankees and Rays are the best teams.
Mm-hmm.
NL, it's wide open because you've got the Dodgers, Padres.
I look at the NL East by itself, and I'm like,
Atlanta,
boy, any team could come out of this NL East.
All those teams are playoff contenders. I mean, the Marlins might be the worst team, and they made the postseason.
Even the Marlins can put up a fight now. I mean,
it's hard to go. I kind of want to say a rematch of last year, but that's so unlikely. So I would probably say Dodgers and Yankees. And it's hard to. It's hard to go against the Dodgers.
It's
just because they have so much talent. Like if they don't win it, they need to win it like in 5 or 6 games. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's a disappointment for them. So, I mean, again, like we said, Dodgers, Padres, Mets, Braves, best teams in the NL by far. So anyone could get there. Are you buying the White Sox? Do you think they could be a World Series contender? I still think they're a year
not
off.
not after Eloy's injury.
Mm-mm.
I think Eloy Jimenez's injury really puts a sting in their role. So I don't buy them. What, Kopech isn't really healthy yet either.
No, they're gonna ease him back.
They're gonna ease him back. So without I think I think next year maybe when Eloy's back, when they have hopefully a healthy Kopech and Giolito, I think then they have a team that will compete.
Can we wrap it up then?
Yeah, sure. I'll do it for now. And everyone, enjoy opening day. Send us comments, questions, whatever. I'm sure we both will be keeping tabs on all the opening day festivities. Find us on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. We are also on YouTube if you want to watch us. And be sure to submit your questions or anything you want us to discuss. Again, that's Dan from thirdmanin.com and Baseball Prospect Journal. I'm Collin from StatsSwipe. We will see you next week for some more baseball.